Trump Media now owns $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Gensler's out of the SEC. His 120 enforcement actions against all of these crypto companies are gone. We have a new crypto czar in the SEC, David Sachs. We have Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, now pro-crypto, even though in 2017 he called Bitcoin an exchange of money laundering. Now, people can buy Bitcoin through BlackRock's ETF. They, of course, don't have any of the benefits of storing the Bitcoin, and they have all of the risks associated with a highly volatile asset. The main reason to have Bitcoin in the first place is to store purchasing power, is to store your wealth in a place that is safe outside of the reach of government, outside the reach of inflation. And when you are dealing with an ETF now, the government can easily cut that off. People are talking about, oh, the governments are going to freeze your bank accounts. Have Bitcoin. Well, if you don't own the Bitcoin, if you're storing it in an ETF, if you don't understand how the blockchain works, if you don't understand how hardware wallets work, if you don't understand any of this stuff, what's the point? It's clearly just a speculative asset for these people. Maybe they heard the narrative about inflation and storing wealth and they decided to buy Bitcoin. I don't know. But a case could be made that BlackRock is just taking advantage of these people. That BlackRock holds the Bitcoin and therefore has the actual custody of the asset, where if everything goes to shit, like Michael Saylor keeps saying, like he keeps comparing the United States to Argentina as though the entire economy is about to collapse, and the best course of action is just to take out huge amounts of debt and buy Bitcoin. If that narrative is the case, then BlackRock's in a pretty good spot because they hold all of the Bitcoin, and all of the people who have the ETF shares, well, I mean, when shit hits the fan, who knows what's going to happen? So that's definitely an interesting point. And then, you want to take a second to zoom out here. There's a lot of things that look like positive developments, friends in the White House, big corporations, all of the things that Bitcoin doesn't like and was built to separate from are now in bed with Bitcoin. Like, let's just take a look at what's going on here. Take a look at Donald Trump's $2 billion investment into Bitcoin. I don't care if it's his company or it's detached from him or it's his family. It's basically him. Let's take a look at that. Now let's take a look at what he's trying to do to the Federal Reserve. He's trying to get them to cut rates. Do you remember what happened in 2020 when the Fed cut rates to zero? Do you remember when Bitcoin went from $5,000 in March of 2020 to $69,000 by late 2021? And inflation peaked at over 9%, and that is an estimate by the government. So it's clearly a wild underestimate using the CPI and all sorts of other forms of deception. All of the assets went through the roof in terms of dollars. Of course, that didn't represent purchasing power because there's a huge amount of inflation. So what's going on here? Well, Bitcoin is supposed to be a hedge against inflation. And it may very well be a hedge against inflation, but it's also being used as a tool by the very people that it hates the most. It's being used as a tool by people like Donald Trump, by people like the heads of these large corporations to generate purchasing power at the expense of everyone else's purchasing power. Everyone else that's holding on to dollars, that's holding on to bonds, and believing the lie that is the CPI is getting hurt, and everyone that's holding Bitcoin and pressuring the Fed to cut rates, those people are succeeding. So not only is the entire narrative of Bitcoin all skewed and messed up, and there's a lot of corruption going on right now, but there's also a lot of risk. You got to look at how much debt is being taken on by these companies. It's not just MicroStrategy, it's not just Trump's company. There's a lot of random companies. I mean, look, I have a list right here. There's a Japanese hotel operator, a French semiconductor firm, a Florida toy maker, a nail salon chain, an e-bike company. They're taking on debt. They're using their assets just to buy Bitcoin. They're not investing in any sort of physical capital that can expand their business. They're not investing in new employees. They're not expanding anything. They're just buying Bitcoin. And that could work out perfectly well if the people in power continue to just manipulate the fiat currency, send it into the toilet, screw over all of the other people who aren't thinking about these sort of complex issues. That could work for them. But, you know, we look at authors. We look at authors like Safadan Amus. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. He is the author of the Bitcoin Standard, the Fiat Standard, all of these economics textbooks. And he talks about problems with fiat currency, with how they cause all sorts of problems with development and manipulation, and they encourage projects that are not actually economically profitable but appear to be profitable because of government subsidies, because of all of these things. And now look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is encouraging these companies to just buy Bitcoin instead of actually do productive things in the real world. Let's detach ourselves from the money, from the Bitcoin, from all these things. Let's look at the big picture. What's actually going on? Is there any growth of these companies? Did MicroStrategy add any value to anyone in the real world? Or did all of these people just capitalize on the fact that fiat currency is a disaster? It's terrible to hold on to. It's difficult to pass wealth and purchasing power into the future. Fiat currency is not saleable across time. Did fiat currency continue to do the exact same thing and just use Bitcoin as a vessel? I would argue yes. Okay, the last thing I'm going to touch on here. We're going to get a little closer to the edge with Closer to the Edge Media with the Parallel Economy YouTube channel. We're going to talk about the Unabomber Manifesto. And of course, I don't agree with the Unabomber. I think he's kind of insane when you zoom out to the big picture. But he's right about a lot of small details. And that's how a lot of these people that go down the rabbit hole become so compelling, is because they are very spot on about small details. And then they say that you need to have a revolution and everything goes crazy. But just listen to this quote from the Unabomber Manifesto. The conservatives are fools. They whine about the decay of traditional values, yet they enthusiastically support technological progress and economic growth. Apparently, it never occurs to them that you can't make rapid, drastic changes in technology and the economy of a society without causing rapid changes in all other aspects of society as well, and that such rapid changes inevitably break down traditional values. All right, let's look at the conservatives. We're trying to support Bitcoin. We're trying to support AI. We're trying to support technological progress. And at the same time, the conservatives are complaining about the breakdown of traditional values, the lack of trust in institutions. The Unabomber is right here, okay? Don't call me crazy, don't cancel me for pointing out this one aspect of the Unabomber Manifesto. But with technological progress comes instability. Why does progress so often look like destruction? It's because a lot of things get destroyed as there's progress. Creative destruction, you can call it what you want, but there's going to be instability. As all of these companies buy Bitcoin and take on risk and take on debt, as Trump pushes the reserve to cut rates, to contribute to inflation, as the conservatives continue to back aggressive economic advancement and technological advancement, instability will follow and everything's going to change. Who am I to say what that specific change is going to be? But I can point out that there will be a tremendous amount of instability. So take that as you will. That's all I have to say here. If you want to follow me on this journey, you know what to do.